T-minus 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, my friends. Welcome back, Space Nerds. It's Launch Sequence Podcast time. Best time of the week. We're going to be talking about Star Citizen this week. Holy crap, what a surprise. And it's a quiet time for Star Citizen. It's currently what I like to call summer break. The CIG's a little bit quiet, but they're working. And we know that they've got some big plans to shake things up after 4.8 was rough. So I brought in DTOX, the... Oh gosh, now I'm forgetting the name of the group again.
Don't butcher it again, Tomato. All right, so let me. It's complicated, okay? You got the Immobiles, Immobile Industries, my organization, and then the guys that play with me on stream, they're nicknamed the Liability Squad. Yeah,
Liability
because
Squad. Dang it.
They often can be more of a liability than a help, but they can also be very helpful too. So
okay. I remember the Immobiles though.
Yeah. It's a branding mistake. It's very confusing.
No branding is bad branding as long as you can yell it as you run into battle.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, folks, I brought DTOX, leader of the Immobiles and double leader of the Liability Squad, to talk about kind of what's been going on with Star Citizen's gameplay, the dungeons that they've been adding, the like more planned scripted stuff, but also then how that compares to the sandbox that they've wanted us to get involved in. So thank you so much for joining me, DTOX. Before we even get started, I'd love to give you the chance to introduce yourself to folks who maybe haven't seen you on the episode before. Your videos are like the premier gameplay videos, so I'm sure they've seen that. Maybe just give them a reminder.
Thank you, man. I always hate introducing myself. I never know what to say, and I don't like talking about myself or anything like that. So yeah, I just make gameplay videos about my adventures in Star Citizen with myself, or with my org, or with people I play with. Often on stream. I stream 3 times a week: Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Sometimes I mix it up as well. That's on Twitch, YouTube, and Kick as well. I multi-stream on there to a handful of dedicated viewers on that platform. There's not many, but there's a few, and I appreciate them. And yeah, I'm a co-leader of an organization called Immobile Industries. We're an industrial organization, but we're also we have a heavy PMC aspect of the org as well. And that's it. Yeah, that's I think that's, before I ramble and talk rubbish, that's all I'll say for now.
How has it been playing this game with an org versus playing by yourself?
It's a game changer. I wouldn't be here if I didn't have a group of people to play the game with still, that's for sure. Like, I always recommend, if you're new to the game, play it for a few weeks, get the grips with, the nuances and the bugs, and develop your bug foo, as I like to call it. Develop basic knowledge of the game, get somewhat comfortable, get bored if you can, like play and get bored of doing things, and then find an org, because there's so much more to do with even just 1 or 2 other people than on your own. And if you play with even just one other person, they can help you get out of binds that would normally end a whole session, I hate to say it, but like bugs, right? The crappy things that can potentially ruin your playthrough as a solo player. If you just got someone else there to revive you or tractor beam you out of a situation you don't need to be in, that can prolong the session, right? And sometimes that can lead to some really cool stuff. So I always think it's worth playing with at least one other guy if you can, one other person. It's double the fun, but it's also double the problems sometimes as well. So you got to weigh up the pros and cons.
Yeah, man. The time to prepare for an event gets exponentially higher as you start adding more people in, but it is worth it. It's definitely...
I agree.
No, go ahead.
No, I agree. Yeah, it's just, like I said, you can do so much more fun stuff in the sandbox side of the game with other people. So.
Right. It's a game like this where you can just whoops, I just glitch through the guardrail on this path, and now I'm in a location you can't climb out of. It's just like any day that can happen. It's nice to have somebody there.
Exactly. I fell through the stairs while quantum jumping, and now my ship's 200 megameters away,
and leaving. Like you can see the number ticking up.
It's flying away from you, and there goes that. Maybe you've just spent an hour and you've got that ship loaded with cargo or something, and if there's one other person still on that ship, they can take the wheel and turn around and pick you up.
Yeah.
And it's, the crap put up with sometimes. it's ridiculous.
Dude, you run into some real painful moments in this game, man.
Yeah.
I want to start off the conversation looking at Star Citizen's core gameplay, how it's changed throughout the years, and how they've been kind of using these events to, I don't want to say prop it up, but maybe like give it some life so that people have more to do. I want to start by asking, going all the way back really to when you started Star Citizen, what was the core gameplay you felt like brought you into the game?
Oh man,
or even the promise of it, rather.
Man, I'd have to recount the many years ago. What was the game? What was the sort of gameplay I was sort of looking forward to?
Like when you saw Star Citizen, were you seeing a game that like you were like, oh, I'm going to go fly spaceships, or were you going to do dungeons? Were you going to build bases? Like, what was the?
No, it was, I come from Star Wars Galaxies, so for me, Star Citizen was the only game that was even potentially close to what Star Wars Galaxies used to be. I think we talked about this before, but that is probably why I got into Star Citizen in the first place, because when I got into the game, it was Arena Commander, right? They just released Arena Commander. I needed proof of concept. I did not back when it was just a hangar and you could just buy JPEGs. I needed to see something a little bit more real, as Watto would say. And I jumped in and watched a few streamers. I watched a few streamers, like saw what it was like, watched a few videos, and picked up the game in 2014. A Mustang Alpha Start combo pack with Squadron 42 and Star Citizen for $60, which is, feel like a freaking old timer talking about how prices used to be of certain items now, but $60 for Star Citizen and Squadron 42 when we're coming up to, probably some sort of AAA pricing for Squadron now is kind of crazy. But I just picked it up because I wanted an open world experience, a sci-fi, a high fidelity, highly detailed open world experience sci-fi game that would give me the feelings I had in Star Wars Galaxies. In Star Wars Galaxies, it was a make your own adventure sandbox game with some theme park elements, some, mission-based content, some dungeons, but overall it was a sandbox. It was make your own adventure, and that is definitely the kind of game, space sim MMO, that I wanted out of Star Citizen. I probably didn't do like a huge amount of research at that point, but it's definitely the kind of game I still want for the most part.
Okay. When you now we've talked a few times about different games you've been into. I know you've been following Dune Awakening quite a bit. Obviously there's a little bit of an overlap between those two games. Are sci-fi / space games kind of your favorite genre? Is that what you look for? Other MMOs in the fantasy genre not as interesting?
I guess so, man. I mean, generally for me, it's the gameplay. What does the gameplay do for you? What can you do in the game? That's the most important thing. If there was a fantasy version of Star Citizen out there, I'd be on that as well. You know what I mean? Like, it's about what the game lets you do and how much freedom or what the sandbox lets you do, like the potential for the human element of the game, for the social element of the game. That is usually what I'm attracted to for the most part. So if there was a fantasy version of Star Citizen, which I think probably Ashes of Creation was going to be one of the closest things to that.
I was trying not to say it, man.
I know. I was like, don't say it. But Ashes of Creation was probably, I didn't follow it. I didn't get invested because, I've only got room for one controversial MMO in my life. But, obviously that didn't make it. Ashes of Creation was a real scam. That's over. But that was probably a game I would have gravitated to if it came to fruition in some sort of final release build, because they were doing a lot of really cool, put the power in the player's hands kind of things, right? And so yeah, it doesn't matter that I'm not a sci-fi space guy only. It's more about what can you do in the game that excites me. Yeah.
Definitely not called Space DTOX. That works so well.
No.
The freedom of Star Citizen's always been pretty cool, and I do think it's interesting that you say if there was a fantasy counterpart, you'd be interested in that too, because one of the things that I always feel like really attracts people to Star Citizen is the freedom, like you said, but also just the fact that there's so few other space games trying to do it, at least back when this was getting more popular. There's a lot more now, but for a while there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to try either. Like, I think Star Citizen's probably going to be the first and the last to do this. I think it's actually, shown probably a lot of people who might have thought about doing this. It's actually a pretty difficult thing to do and not a great idea. Like, I think Star Citizen's the first and last of its kind, and even AAA publishers with all the money in the world aren't going to try to do what Star Citizen's doing, or COG's doing, at least across both projects. So yeah, I don't think there's going to be anything like this. I think there'll be lots of games that might take elements from Star Citizen and put them in different experiences, but the overall experience that Star Citizen potentially can be and is, I don't think anyone's ever going to touch that with a 10-foot barge pole after this, this dev period, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but
I mean, as long as you're going to have to like remortgage your house to get GPUs, I think it's going to be hard to make anything that runs on this many servers like this long in an experimental format. Like, if they had started this whole thing in say 2021, I bet they would have run out of money already, right? Because keeping this all going the last 3 years must have been super expensive. Yeah,
true. Yeah. I mean, I guess they get better deals and things, but it's it's tough out there, dude. I really respect game devs and the people that are smarter than me who are willing to learn to code and program and level design and 3D design video games, because it's we wouldn't have video games without them, and it feels like it's such a thankless job these days and such a hard industry to work in. Like, I couldn't do it. I love working.
Getting fired.
Yeah, dude. Like, I love working with video games as a content creator, but I'm not a technical minded person. I couldn't develop a game, so.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Yeah. Appreciate the devs.
When I first started doing the YouTube videos, I tell people I was kind of. The situation was weird. I had to move over to Turkey and obviously couldn't speak the language. So I was like trying to kind of find a way to move forward with something that I enjoyed. Maybe that could work out. And I was like, well, I've been kind of working and making videos. I can continue that and see how that goes. But I also have always wanted to get into coding and like maybe sign up for a company or something like that. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, best path I have into the gaming industry is I go for Q&A or for QA, because that's a way people get in. So I play this Evocati angle real hard at CIG, get a whole bunch of credit for that, build a report thing that I can go and show to other companies that I know how to test games. And in the meantime, I go and I take what is it called? CS 100, I think it was, which is like the intro to computer science class from Harvard Online. Do that whole course, code some stuff, get that experience. Halfway through the class, I'm like, you know what? I should probably just stick to videos. There are people much smarter than me.
Yeah, I'm in above my head here. This is over my head.
Yep.
Maybe.
Yep. So also, I have so much respect, and I hope someday I'll be able to learn it. But the gaming industry is awful in terms of the way that it treats the people inside of it, and it's chaotic. And we say that Star Citizen's like the only game that's probably going to do this, and I agree with you, at least until like the tech gets really cheap and stuff, because
maybe I hate to say it, maybe AI or something, who knows.
They've definitely proven
that wouldn't be the same.
It wouldn't. They've proven that people want this, but they haven't necessarily proven how to get it.
Exactly. Yeah, they haven't proven it can be done yet. I mean, they definitely proved a lot of things, but they haven't proved it, the whole thing. So yeah.
So far, so it's fun, but we'll wait and see what happens in the future. Speaking of the future, Alpha 4.9 is not delayed, but most of the stuff in it is delayed. And there's some pretty big additions there. The biggest being Siege of Orison and the first version of instancing in Star Citizen. When we first talked about, what brought you to the game, you talked a lot about that sandbox open world kind of environment. How do you feel about them bringing instances into these things now to sit, I guess, alongside the open world sandbox?
Yeah, I think I think the writing's on the wall for a long time. I think it's like, I think it's necessary to get, if the game is going to have such a focus on PvE, which I think if it's going to be successful on a large scale, it definitely needs to have good PvE. And I don't dislike PvE. I like PvE, but I don't like crap PvE. I don't like PvE that doesn't challenge me and my friends. I don't like it. I don't like PvE where it doesn't work. I mean, who does? So we've had years of PvE being, the way it is in Star Citizen. We've had years of experiencing it on this level where it just never quite delivers because, the back end, the servers, the netcode, whatever you want to call it. So, and static meshing didn't deliver the silver bullet either. Clearly, right? We're dealing with some of the worst desync I've ever seen in years of playing the game. And the performance is really rough. And, even on high server frame static meshed servers, like there's still these issues. Still things don't run flawlessly, but that's another thing altogether. But, static meshing didn't fix it. It wasn't the silver bullet. Mm-hmm. They never said it would be, but we're obviously all secretly hoping it would deliver some level of consistency from the AI, some level of consistency of playability from the game. And I think it did for a little while. A lot of people had a really terrible 3.0 experience. I had a really good 3.0 experience. I spent all the time in Pyro, and almost every time I played, I never got a server below 20 to 30 server frames. I had pretty much everywhere I went, the NPCs were lively and working. And generally, it was like some of the best I'd seen the game for a while. But then it just got worse and worse, right? It slowly degraded. It's gotten worse and worse. And because they filled the static mesh up even more with stuff, right? We got static meshing, and now it's like, right, well, now let's get the next star system in. Let's get all these massive, like 100 rock breaker locations or whatever, 80 QV station locations.
You know what I like in that too? It's like the cell phone companies when they'll be like, yeah, we got like a really nice new big battery. It's super efficient, runs really well. You get this much battery life, and so we made the screen bigger.
Exactly.
And you're like, okay, cool.
Exactly. Like, they instantly filled up the cup. Like static server meshing, like gave us this nice empty cup of like room volume, whatever, and they just shoved stuff in it, which is, obviously, they got to because they're making the game. There's still so much more stuff that needs to go into the game. But until, I don't know. It's like there's always another carrot on a stick over the horizon, right? And the next carrot on the stick is dynamic server meshing. But if we just forget that for now, because there's no guarantees there either.
Yeah.
Instancing, in my opinion, is a guarantee that you're going to get a good PvE experience. It should be a guarantee anyway, right? Like it should be a guarantee that when I go and do TSG, it's going to be exactly the way tactical strike groups with my org. We get everybody together. I know they haven't said that there's going to be instance, but my inkling is that it will be and should be.
Yeah.
But a TSG or Siege of Orison in this case, which we know is going to be instanced, I should be able to get some people together. I should be able to go to Siege of Orison. I should know that the content is going to play out from A to C exactly the way it should do. And I need to prepare and get my friends together and get the right gear and plan our approach and how we're going to do it. And there should be challenges along the way that we have to think about and deal with and plan for. And the experience, should be that experience every time we run it, which is something we've never ever had in the game. So for now, yeah, I like for PvE content where that's concerned, I do think instancing is a good thing, and I think it's a necessity in order for us to get that experience. But yeah, my concerns are, and I said this in my sitcom breakdown video from last year when they started to very slowly, or not slowly, but they really started to hammer on instancing last year at CitizenCon. They really started to introduce it to the backers and start to lay the groundwork for it. I could see the writing on the wall, okay, they're making a big deal about instancing here. We're obviously going to get way more instance content in the future, but my worry is when Benoit talked about being able to instance any part of the mesh, right? So it's the static mesh, and the instancing is basically like part of that static mesh. He was talking about being able to like have you jumping through an instance in quantum, right? Like you could essentially they could essentially instance anywhere. I know they spoke about like, there'll be the overground, I think they called it. You remember that? I think they called it like the overworld, and the instanced world, right? And I'm pretty sure like he talked about like they'll be able to instance anywhere. So my worry is like we're going to start potentially seeing open world elements of the game instanced. So let's say, I jump to an OLP on Daymar to go and do Hathor. While I'm jumping there, I don't know whatever range they set it at, or set it to or something, 100 clicks or something, 200 clicks, megameters, whatever. My worry is that there's a chance that they can start instancing and chopping up the overworld as well into these sort of instance curated experiences as well. That's my concern. But I do think in terms of PvE content, instancing is a necessity for Star Citizen right now.
I do think that most people who are looking at instancing as a necessity or like a reluctant necessity of the game are in that kind of boat where they're like, okay, certain things can definitely make sense being instanced. These kind of like city blocks like Siege of Orison, asteroid facilities like Rock Cracker or the TSG locations, mission givers like Recco Battaglia. But then there is that kind of, in the slide at the Star Citizen 1.0 explanation, I remember Rich saying that they were going to also be instancing fleet battles, which is what tactical strike groups are, but the possibility of just having random instances out somewhere in space, like you're quantum traveling in, and I think of Elite Dangerous. When you get interdicted in Elite Dangerous, it gives you some time to fight it. You get captured, it drops you out into an instance. Or like maybe you're flying hypercruise, supercruise, I think, across a system, and there's like an anomaly that pops up. You drop out, and suddenly there's a little battle going on. But that's an instance, and I don't think anybody really wants that in Star Citizen.
I don't think they do, and I think I've talked about this a bunch of times in the past, and people always say, no, they've never said that. They're not going to do that. DTOX, blah, blah, blah. Well, why not? Why wouldn't they? If it's the answer to the problem of giving you an experience that plays the way it's supposed to, and generally, right, most people, that's what most people want, and most players, I would assume want. I mean, they want things to work, right? Like you can go and do Hathor now, and 5 times out of 10, half the time it's not working, right? Somewhere in the chain, Hathor is broken. Somewhere in the chain, someone's taken a battery and hidden it, or someone's taken an alignment blade or two, and there's things missing. That's a whole gameplay loop you can't do because it's an open world. It's an open world piece of content, and people need to do Hathor. People need Karenite. People need to craft with it. People need to build with it. It's an important piece of the game. It's also my favorite piece of the game and the best piece of content they've done in the last 2 years, in my opinion. But and that's because it is open world. But the fact that things break on it along the chain, and there are plenty of ways people can interfere with someone doing it. If CIG gets enough aggro from it, or people are complaining, or they just can't get it to work, I don't know, there's a chance that they could instance something like that as well. I mean, in CitizenCon, I think this is more specifically what Benoit was talking about. I think he said we can instance PvE and PvP, I think he said. I hope I'm not making that up or paraphrasing.
No,
it's been a while since it's been a while since I've watched it. But yeah, I think he said, we can instance PvE and PvP. And that's like alarm bells for me, because when you start instancing PvP, then you'll open up a whole can of worms, because it's not enough to just instance the content. Next, you're going to have to instance and control how many people can enter. Yeah. And then you're going to have to instance and control how many of those people from a certain org enter. And then you're going to have to control the skill level of everybody that enters, right? Like, how it's a very slippery slope when you instance PvP content, because you get, Jimmy and his 5 buddies jumping into an instance with a 50-player instance of Hathor, and there's 45 guys from like Shadow Moses or something, or some PvP, sweat org that's really good. What kind of experience are those 5 people going to have?
Yeah.
So it's a slippery slope, because then CIG has to be like, oh, well, yes, the data shows that people aren't interacting with this because they're getting ruffle stomped by the guys that are much better than them. So we've got to now curate this experience, and we've got to decide, who gets in here and who get. It's just dangerous, like, in my opinion, right? So
trying to create these controlled environments. Just
correct. Yeah, it's exactly. Yeah.
It's interesting because I do, from my perspective, I feel like there are obvious reasons to have instances where PvP can occur, but when you lay out, the different things that start to pop up when you get different groups in a conflict that are supposed to fight against each other, there really is a lot of complication that comes up. I mean, the biggest thing for me, even with Siege of Orison, was that you're getting capped for players that are able to get in. And I'm like, okay, well, what if you're playing in a group of 5 and one person's just late to get there? Like, they're flying from Microtech instead of Grimhex, and the 4 of you get into this match. You're like, yeah, dude, we'll stand by the starting area for you. Just come on in. And then the person gets there. They get on the tram to join you, and like a little pop-up pops up and says, sorry, you can't play with your friends. There's too many people. It doesn't matter if you don't know you're going into an instance. That's going to suck to see.
Is this like, are you going off what you've seen from the PTU test?
No, I have no idea how it actually is treated when that happens, but I do know from their patch notes that they were initially only allowing 4 people in an instance. Maybe that'll grow. I certainly hope it grows, because I feel like Siege of Orison is a lot more fun with more than 4 people. But
maybe I misunderstand you then. But wouldn't you just turn up with everyone? You would know the play limit beforehand, and you'd just turn up with the people you need?
No, so they actually set it up so that you can join, and then somebody else can join your instance if they're part of your party. So they can join you if you're like halfway through it and they just haven't been there in time.
But no one else would fill up that next spot, would they? Because you'd have your own instance.
Yeah, but if you're in a group of 6 people and there's only 4 slots, 2 of those people are going to get left out at some point.
Right. Yeah, what I'm saying is, wouldn't you just go with 4 people though? And
oh yeah.
Or I feel like I'm misunderstanding.
No. Obviously, like, as adults, you could just make the decision to play in separate groups.
Okay.
But also, as adult, I want to play with all my friends.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And so, I think for us who are here in the actual development of this, it's super obvious. It makes a ton of sense for us. But what about the person who's playing in a year, who jumps into this game that is so known for having the loading screens, or being all like open world and stuff, and then the guy who kind of introduced instancing to the game, his real selling feature was like, you're not going to realize you're getting into an instance. It's still seamless. It's still, you're still in that environment. And it's like, well, people are going to randomly get split up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I feel like they're probably gonna do better. I feel like what we're seeing at the moment, the way Siege of Orison is just the test bed. Maybe they will find a better approach. Maybe their static meshing or dynamic meshing can, make it more seamless than instancing that we know, and we're accustomed to. But it's who knows. It's COG. You don't know. Anything's possible. We'll see.
It seems like it's a little rough, and it's funny because this is the original concept for Star Citizen, was just a bunch of instances everywhere. You just like fly into space and that's a separate instance. Do you think that this inclusion, or this way that they're changing the game, is an admission that the whole open server mesh environment thing they just don't think it's going to work? Or is this, you feel like, a hybrid system that they're getting the best of both worlds?
My initial feeling was, this is an admission that it's the open world dream is not possible, right? I think I've always felt that way, right? Like ultimately, like, yeah, man, I'm coming along for the ride. I really want to see what they can do with this. You can already do some incredible stuff in the game. I'm getting a ton of enjoyment out of it in certain ways, a ton of frustration in others. But I'm coming along for the ride. I'm going to see how big they can get this, how truly open world they can keep it. But I think in the back of my mind, I kind of always knew it just isn't going to work in the way that they are dreaming it would work, or at least, selling it would work. It's, it's crazy to think, like, and it's hard for me to see it working when I am taking part in these events where there's like 150, 200 people fighting over, like I did a video a couple months ago now, or a month ago, where Mr. O from the Jump Point Network had an event he held at Jackson Swap in Pyro. It was a Protect the VIP event. My org was protecting him. He was the VIP. And it was an open event. Anybody could turn up. Everybody knew about it. And I think it was advertised by COG in the weekly
newsletter,
this week in Star Citizen as well.
Yeah.
And, hundreds of people turned up. Hundreds of people above Jackson Swap and Pyro. Griefernet turned up. I think they had like 10 or 12 Idrises, maybe more than that, all probably solo manned. There was 40 of us on the ground, soldiers, right? Ground troops on the ground in Jackson Swap, protecting Mr. O and fighting off people coming in from multiple different angles. People coming in with drop ships and people biking in on bikes, trying to get to the VIP, trying to kill Mr. O. And we were, 40 of us, just us protecting him, not to mention the hundreds of other people in the DGS that were also converging on location and fighting over it. And it was a 2 frame per second slideshow, and we had a guy run in one of the buildings and kill like 4 of our guys before anyone could see him. And I'm looking at that like, I don't know if dynamic server meshing is going to really fix this.
That's a feature, not a bug.
This is not like, just a server thing. This is client side as well. Like I'm rendering 12 capital Idris ships in the air, which are basically like FPS maps on their own, right? Firing lasers down and railguns down on the ground. There's all these other people and all these other things going on, explosions, bombs, even like client side. That's a tall order, and I just don't know how much dynamic server meshing can touch that. I really want to believe it can, and I hope it can. But it's one of the reasons I love taking part in these events, because I love doing them and then feeling out like, ooh, this feels a little bit better. This time it ran better. This time it worked better. And obviously CIG hopefully gets a lot of good data from it as well. But it's when it seems like there's so much ground to cover, when I'm sitting there on a 5090 with 32 gig of RAM and a 9800 X3D, and I'm getting like 5 frames per second in this battle, right? As epic as it all looks as a slideshow, I'm getting 5 frames per second. Like, what other silver bullets are there that are going to make this work as an open world game where if we really go for Chris's vision and CIG's plan, I mean, Chris said even this year they want to up the server limits to 1,000 players, and we're at 700 at the moment. Like, they can't have 1,000 people decide to turn up in one spot. Like, there's just no game or architecture that can accommodate that. Surely, like, you just like, I know how Eve does it. It's all like time dilation, but there's no like real time. Eve doesn't have any real time inputs. It's all click this and wait for that toolbar and cooldowns and stuff, right? It's a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I hate being a downer about it. I still think Star Citizen can be a great game, like, without this crazy idea that we're going to have thousands of people in one server doing whatever they want. Like, otherwise I would have quit already. Like, I still think Star Citizen can be a really great game, but I really don't know if they can do what they claim, right? With thousands of, I mean, they haven't even defined how servers are truly going to look in the final product. Like, yeah, we're going for 1,000 people soon, but what are you aiming for? Like, you really think you're going to have a single shard? Absolutely not. Like, it's going to have to be regional. It's going to have to be regional shards, and it's going to have to be lots of them, in my opinion. And I'd be fine with that. Like, I think it's crazy to even think that it's ever going to be some sort of one shard universe.
Yeah, the one shard universe, it feels like even they have very clearly ditched that idea over the last few years and have started talking more about the idea of regional shards. But I do think that everybody is at a point of expecting some kind of a minimum. Like, the idea is still, most folks I think are in the same boat. Like, this might not be taken as an admission that things don't work by people, but it is definitely an acknowledgement that the model they're going for is not the only one that will work, right? You have narrative gameplay, you have set pieces, you have story elements that you need to play a certain way. So instances are necessary for that. I think what everybody is still hoping is that outside of the instancing, we do all this stuff with the servers and shards, and they can still at least get up to like a cool number of concurrency, right? 10,000 people in a shard. Yeah, exactly. It's like there might be 80,000 people playing this game at a single time post 1.0 release if it's a good, if things go well. Can you fit all those 80,000 people in one shard? And then if not, how many? 5, 10, 20? Like, that's something that every number attracts a different kind of person. But I gotta say, with your explanation, obviously it's just a PC problem, dude. You just don't have a good enough PC. You gotta upgrade a bit more. You gotta remortgage your house so you can get some more RAM.
I put that on a credit card, man. I put the whole thing on a credit card, and it gave me like 5 more frames. No, it has been good. Like, obviously I edit in 4K and record 4K footage, so it's been a big help with that. That's the only reason I did it. It wasn't to get better gameplay in SC. It does help, but I edit and record 4K, so I wanted something that could, deal with that better.
Nice and crisp, yeah.
It was it was a win. There was multiple things at play, but yeah, man, it's no silver bullet for SC. It still doesn't run perfectly. It definitely runs better. Runs great. Runs better for me than a lot of people, that's for sure. But no, it didn't. It couldn't handle over 100, 150, 200 people fighting over Jackson Swap that day. That's for sure.
Yeah, you're not going to get away from that, unfortunately. I do agree with you. That's like a client side thing, and I think that comes down to optimizations, to lighting, to like textures, all those kinds of things, making them actually a lot better in the game. But there's still just, it's a ton of effects and stuff going on,
so
and
much stuff.
They want to do Maelstrom, which is like procedurally damaging everything.
Don't get me started on Maelstrom, man.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Abandon that idea, CIG. Just abandon the idea of Maelstrom. It's such in my opinion, a massive, pointless headache. Like, it really doesn't add anything to the game, in my opinion. And it's only going to detract from the gameplay experience. But that's That's a whole other discussion, dude. I'm sorry.
No, I think I actually might agree with you there. As far as ship damage goes, I do see the importance of it and the usefulness of it. I think the best game, or the game with the best like damage mechanics when you're fighting the enemies, is the Horizon Zero series. You ever played those?
I didn't. No.
No, they're really, really good.
Really? Okay. How do they handle it?
Well, you're fighting these robotic dinosaurs, right? Sounds very gosh, there's a game that was all about that. No, I guess not robotic dinosaurs, but like firearm wielding dinosaurs. Back when I was a kid, I remember seeing it on the Blockbuster shelf. But you're fighting like mechanized dinosaurs from the future, and they have specific attacks. They have specific weak points, and they have specific like components that allow them to fight certain ways. So you run into a specific one that has like a flamethrower on the front of it. And over time, as you scan it, as you fight it, you start to realize these parts of it are armored. When I shoot it there, just kind of bounces off. These parts of it are like crucial components. When I shoot it there, it does serious damage, but also depending on the stats of my weapon, the power of my shot, how far away I am, I could also knock those components off. And that then allows me to upgrade my own attacks and change the way that I am fighting because I've recovered those resources. And it's different for each enemy. If they did something like that with the ships in Star Citizen, man, like I know that they want to do it, but there's a difference between like execution and wanting to.
I don't know. I think there was a argument. My argument was that, imagine you've got 100 ships then all fighting in a skirmish, and there's just all these bits of Maelstrom that need to be tracked, and server side, the server needs to ultimately track it all, right? Because everybody's seeing it, everybody's registering, so the server needs to like take all that data and then give you the information and keep that updated at all times for you. With all these people going through all these different Maelstrom phases, if you want to call it, heavy armor, thin armor, breaking things off. When you look at what the game does now and how it struggles in certain ways, that sounds insane to me. But I think there was an argument, someone else who might have been more knowledgeable on Maelstrom than I am. I think he said it actually makes, there's something in the way it's done. It actually makes it, it's actually not that demanding, and it's actually quite good. Like it actually helps or something. I think they said somebody might be able to, maybe or somebody in the comments might talk about it. But someone was basically, when I brought it up before, someone was saying, oh no, it actually, Maelstrom is going to make it isn't that demanding as you think. But just the idea of all these things being destructible and walls and ruins around the game, hundreds of them, I just don't think it adds that much to the game. Like, and the combat and the damage system as it is at the moment, like we're getting somewhere at the moment. I don't personally see how Maelstrom will really improve that experience more than just a optics thing, more than just a visual improvement. Like there's ways they can signal, armor degradation and hull degradation to you just through the MFD and through like target status, right? Like you scan a ship, and when you scan it, it gives you like red sections and orange sections, green section, whatever you want to do with it, to signify, where it's weak, where you need to hit more, where you can blow through the damage components, that kind of stuff. But yeah, like, I don't know. I just feel like it's because it's obviously going to shake up the game again in a massive way. Like we're going through all this headache of engineering and armor and everything at the moment, which is just essentially placeholder, because Maelstrom will basically turn that on its head. So I don't know. For me, like I think we should just hammer away at what we've got and maybe treat Maelstrom as some sort of thing later down the line, maybe even post 1.0. I don't know. Just seems crazy.
I think it helps. It helps to build a system.
Oh, I've lost you. I can't hear you.
You can't hear me. Oh, that's weird. My mic. I think there must be some button on my keyboard that mutes my mic in Discord because it keeps randomly doing that.
Okay, I can hear you.
the it sets up a system of logic, which I could see helping in that it'll take basically all the materials in the game and actually assign them to like things. So they can say aluminum has this value, and when a ship is made out of aluminum, it has this level of defense. So when you shoot that specific part, it breaks that way. And I think that does help with deriving some logic from ships when it comes to like salvaging them, shooting them. You kind of get a better idea of what's going to happen when you shoot it. Not to the point where they can't just say like, oh, this is a red panel on a ship, and when you shoot a red panel, it disintegrates. They could do it that way too. I could see the value in linking it to materials, though. I don't.
Yeah.
They also, the way they talk about it is a little weird, because they're like, oh, when you salvage a ship after we bring in Maelstrom and like materials matter, you'll be able to get a special material from each ship. So Aegis will have its own alloy. And I'm like, that doesn't necessarily sound like they're setting every material to have its own thing. They're just making special materials for each manufacturer. So I think they're going to even halfway that. And at that point, I would say, is there a point to it? But I think I'm in agreement with you. Like, if there was one thing that they probably could go ahead and drop in my mind to decomplicate things, I would think it was Maelstrom.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. That's basically what my argument comes down to. I think the idea of it is amazing. Like, it sounds really cool. And yeah, it's another way that CIG is reinventing the wheel, right? And yeah, it sounds great, but like you said, if there's anything that could be dropped and it wouldn't really change how I feel about the game, in my opinion, it's Maelstrom. Like, it's just constantly looming over everybody's head. Oh yeah, armor this, armor that, balance this, balance that. Oh yeah, but Maelstrom's going to come, and then it's all going to be different anyway. So like, okay, well, what are we doing then? Like, just, you know, it's going to come in and just turn everything on its head again. I just don't think. I don't think we can. I don't think it's necessary, but I don't know. It's like you said. It'd be really nice to have. I just think if there's something that we could drop and it wouldn't really change the outcome of Star Citizen that much, I feel like Maelstrom is one of those things. And I think it's, you know, it touches so many systems. It must eat up so much dev time. But that's not my job to think about that. That's CIG. So I'm going to act like a manager.
Let's talk back about. I want to dive back into the kind of talk about dungeons and I always want to say Dungeons and Dragons, but like the different activities they've been bringing to the game. Actually, I guess not limiting this question to those things, but really the entire game. What's the best gameplay you think CIG has ever released into Star Citizen?
It is Hathor, like I said earlier, man. It's, you know, it ticks all the boxes. It's, for me, like, Hathor was, yep, this is Star Citizen. This is what Star Citizen can do. No other game comes close to creating an experience like this. Really, like, I think maybe the thing I'd liken it to most is probably Battlefield 2042 or 2142, where there was a mode called Titan mode where you had to go through all these different phases before you could go and assault the enemy's mothership and blow it up, kind of thing. That's like probably maybe there's games out there. Like PlanetSide 2, I guess, also has this element of, you know, get through these multiple phases, do the big epic thing, fire the laser, crack open the ground. You know, Hathor is everything. It's aerial combat, it's space combat at the station, it's FPS combat on the station, around the paths, around the hull when you eventually crack it open. It's mining, it's industrial gameplay. It brings logistics in because you got to get people in to deliver the mining vehicles, the atlases, the Argo atlases. You got to get people in there mining with mining guns. You got to get the Titan, the Icties in there mining, and then you got to get them out. You got to ferry the goods out back to base. It encompasses everything: PvE, PvP, industrial gameplay, incredible spectacle, giant laser firing from the sky, cracking open the ground. I've done like multiple videos on it and never gets old. It's what I'm doing at the moment in 4.8 when there's nothing else to do, nothing else works. Even Hathor doesn't work half the time, but it's what I'm doing for content at the moment, and it's always a fun time because it just brings all these elements of the game together in an open world situation, and that is what I've always wanted from Star Citizen, and that's what Hathor did when it arrived, and then since then they've never done it again. There's not any other. They just there hasn't been any other open world. They've, like you said, and like this podcast is about. They've just been laying out, sort of much more controlled, safer content ever since. And I wonder if that's something to do with data they got from Hathor or something, or this is just them laying the 1.0 foundation, which is also, what I suspect. This is just all 1.0 foundational content. And I think it's all great stuff. I think Stormbreaker's really good. I think Rockcracker's really good, although I would have much preferred Rockcracker if it was like Hathor, an open world. I think a lot of people were expecting it to be 2 or 3 or 4 of them in Nyx, and you'd have to basically do what you do for Hathor. The QV stations, the tactical strike groups are excellent when they work, obviously. I think it's all really good stuff, but I just like to see more content like Hathor, personally, and maybe we'll get some soon.
It is kind of frustrating that...
I've lost you again.
Bro, what the heck? I gotta figure out what that key binding is. Discord, come on now.
I think your viewers can hear you, it's just not me.
No. It keeps muting me on the Discord channel here, and I have to keep taking the mute off Discord. It's weird.
Yeah.
I think it is worth noting that Rockcracker is essentially the same format as Hathor, but as you've pointed out, it doesn't play the same. They've very clearly taken this different approach, like you said, of making things more safe. Not quite instant, since they couldn't, but they've made a bunch of these locations so people can enjoy them as they want, while also creating a public version where you can run into other people. But if there's a choice, most people don't choose that. And there's a lot of conversations to have there. A lot of people who don't like running into other people will say, why do you need me to be forced into this encounter for you to have fun? Why does Rockcracker have to have the ability of running into other players if I just want to do it on my own? And we're seeing it play out in real time almost. In last year, every single time there was a release, there would be this massive outcry from people saying, you're only making stuff for orgs. It's all for it's just for streamers and orgs and people who can do it all in that first 2 weeks. And then by the next patch, it's broken. It's gone. We can't do this ever again. And CIG has clearly kind of responded to that. And I do think that Hathor is great. How do you think they can get around the problem, though, that you want to make a location like Hathor that has valuables, that attracts people there, that creates this cool sandbox experience, but you also want to make sure that people can get that solid, curated gameplay as well. Do those clash, or can they coexist, in your opinion?
I mean, to address your first point, why does it have to be PvP? Why does it have to have PvP? Just for me, it's a personal preference. It's just a risk reward thing, and that's exciting. And that's all it comes down to. For me, it's exciting because there's risk and there's potential risk and there's potential reward. There's a strong payoff for coming in and being prepared, and having logistics and having some air cover and having getting your group together and running this thing and pulling it off and getting out with the goods. And on top of that, there's this RNG now where you can get some really high quality Karenite out of it, or some pure Karenite, and get out. And that's exciting, And, I don't have anything against PvE, but like I said earlier, until PvE is instanced, it just isn't engaging enough. So for me, personally, this is why I am for instancing PvE content, because then we might start getting more engaging PvE content. But there still needs to be some element of risk reward. I'm going on a little tangent there, but I do think we can have, obviously we can have both, like, but there are some things I think where there needs to be that element of risk reward, because if there isn't, then people are always going to take the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that, right? Like Dune Awakening was a good example of that, when they changed how the deep desert worked. It's probably it's a bit of a tangent, but basically in the deep desert, they made it so that you could essentially get what you needed out of the deep desert PvE section akin to what you could get out of the PvP section of the deep desert. And then nobody went into the PvP side. They got what they needed for the most part from the PvE side and went on their merry way. And it's a can of worms, because this just brings up the PvE versus PvP discussion. But
yep.
Ultimately, like from my point of view, it all comes down to, I wouldn't have had any of the cool, fun experiences I had at Hathor if it was just PvE, if it was instanced, if it was, there was no PvP there whatsoever. So that's just from my perspective. That's one of the reasons I really enjoyed it, because it's about the unknown. It's about, you never know what's going to happen when you get there. You never know who's going to be there. Could it be a super easy run? Could it be a super difficult one? Am I going to get any at all? Am I going to get any Karenite? That's what it comes down to. It's the unpredictability, and that makes it exciting for me. But there needs to be, both parties absolutely need to be represented and looked after. But not at the both shouldn't be at the expense of each other ultimately.
Yeah. I full-heartedly agree with you. Or if I was writing like some kind of announcement for CIG, I'd probably say something along the lines of, I full-throatedly agree with you. Full-throated embrace of your theory.
Full-throated. Full-throated, as Jared would say. Yeah.
You definitely need risk and reward. And as somebody who's not really a PvP player, I hate to label what you're doing or what you're not doing. I'm generally like a risk versus not risk player, but I understand players inherently provide more risk. I love the idea of needing to go do some adventuring to find something, and it's unpredictable. I was just telling Accuse in a recent episode that my favorite content online, favorite gaming content, is Daisy videos by JLK, because it's always like that. You're always going to do something, and you never know what that's going to lead to when there's other people involved. But also, you kind of just want a chill time where you're not going to run into players and you just are bouncing off like a storyline or something. And I think that's part of what I've always liked about Star Citizen, was the idea that there wouldn't be boundaries around that. There's not a PvE server or a PvP server I have to jump into. I don't have to choose a specific instance for the experience I want. And it feels like with this, I don't know what's going to happen with this version of instancing, but it's definitely now it's much more of a topic now than it ever was, I think, of what direction is that going to go in.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's it should be like, okay, I want this, I need this. Am I up to the task? Am I ready for the risk to get that certain thing? But also, I think it is, Star Citizen can do both. Like, if there's a game out there that can keep both groups happy, and instancing obviously plays a part in that, then Star Citizen can do that, just because of the way it's designed and the way it's set up. But yeah, it has to, like, I like that you can go to Hathor to get some grade A ship components as well. Like, from the battery room, there's some grade A components lying around. But also you can go to QV stations in Nyx, and they're purely PvE for the most part, right? And you can go and get grade A components from there, or you can go and get grade A components from the executive hangars, and get a grade A ship, right? Like the F-7A Mark II, and giving players these choices to engage it with the risk versus reward content is the way forward, and CRG has done that. But yeah, it's a slippery slope with instancing, obviously, because how far do you go? How much instancing how much instancing do you do until you're instancing the risk out of the game or the unpredictability out of the game? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And they're also just in this period of like, it feels like they're not entirely sure of how they want to balance the rarity of items and minerals and like, yeah, that stuff's exclusive in Hathor, but is there really no other way whatsoever to get it? Or like the same with Sidarix, like, okay, I'll go to a rock cracker facility, but it doesn't occur anywhere else in the natural galaxy. Like it would be nice if there was some choice. And that brings me to, sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, man. But yeah, like, and then maybe pure Karenite is where Hathor is, but you can get high quality Karenite anywhere else.
Yeah.
Or, and then you tie pure Karenite to something specific. I don't know, something that, maybe you just tie it to something specific, right? It's like, yeah, you can go get Karenite everywhere else, but the pure Karenite, this one specific one is
like
maybe
super heavy
Hathor
armor
only.
or something. And
if you're risk averse, you don't want to do that, then you trade it with that guy, or you buy the end result of someone else who's traded it with that guy. There's also that thing to consider where it does create supply and like a demand for something as well from players who are more risk averse. It creates demand from the players who are willing to go do the risk to get the thing to sell to somebody or trade with somebody. So, and that's all part of a fun, living, breathing universe as well. And that's another reason I enjoy that risk reward element and open world gameplay.
That's a good point. If we had player trading, it wouldn't be as big a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
We always come back to that. But that does bring me back to Dune, which you mentioned, and how you kind of saw that fall apart with this changing of the deep desert and the way that resources work. Do you see that same kind of thing possibly happening to Star Citizen over time?
Possibly. Like Dune Awakening is a very different story, I think. But never say never. It ultimately CIG is their business, and they need to please the majority for the most part. They want to try and please as many people as they can, try and please all the groups. But Dune Awakening really shocked me because within 2 weeks of the game releasing, they completely, like, the pendulum swung completely the other way. They sold in my opinion, a very different game to the game that it turned into within the first month. So you never know, right? It comes down to what they're seeing, what the developers are seeing on their end. I think CIG will always try to keep everyone happy, but you can't please everyone, and it really depends on how much CIG is willing to trade. Yeah, essentially in their gameplay systems.
They try to keep people happy to their detriment, I think.
Yeah.
Too many people happy. If they were trying to serve the most players when improving Star Citizen, particularly when it comes to this stuff like the dungeons content, the instancing we've been talking about, what do you think the best move would be to take going forward?
Yeah, it's a tough one. Because again, it's a completely different kettle of fish with Star Citizen, right? It's like the game is going to be a weird hybrid moving forward, and it's uncharted waters, as CIG would say and Jared would say. It's I don't know. I don't know the absolute solution. All I know is you can't completely kill the risk reward element of the game, because when there's no risk, people complete everything. There's not as much challenge. Like there needs to be this unpredictability and this challenge to keep people playing, keep people hooked. There needs to be consequences, right? There needs to be loss. There needs to be these things to keep people playing. And when things are just given to you, when things are easy to get, you consume the content super quickly, and then you do everything you want to do, and then you say, okay, I'm ready for my next course, CIG, give me the next thing, right? it, you know, CIG need to continue to provide the tools for the sandbox for people who are not just going to sort of consume and move on. They need to keep the living universe rolling, right? They need, obviously, the economy is another massive thing. But like I said earlier, with like the Karenite, the supply and demand, the people who are willing to go and risk and get said thing so they can trade with that person and keeping that social aspect of the game alive as well. Those are all important things. But yeah, I don't know the answer. I don't know the model. CIG doesn't know the model either. But I do think that instancing is necessary for a lot of Star Citizen's PvE content.
It does sound like, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're pretty much of the belief that they should stick to what they want to do rather than trying to please the largest amount of people.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess so. Diplomatic answer. Yeah.
A lot. It seems
I don't
like
know.
It seems like the point we're dancing around here is like, it's good to make a consistent experience that, like, it is consistent in the sense that when you take it, you can always expect to get consistently inconsistent. You take Hathor, for instance, is what you're talking about. You always want it to be consistent in the sense that, like, the parts of it work. NPCs spawn, people show up, and there's a fight for resources. But you want it to be unpredictable in that you don't know who's showing up. You don't know what ships they're bringing. You don't know if the NPCs are grouped in like one building versus another kind of thing. Like, it needs to be unpredictable, but you have to expect that unpredictability.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not like, if I go there and I do the whole run and I get out with what I want, that's great, and no one comes and bothers me. Fantastic. Sure. Like, yeah. I can be like, damn, that was a really good Hathor run. Like, that went really well. Nobody screwed with me. I didn't lose anything. Everything worked. I got out. I got in. I got what I needed. I got out. Fine. That's great. But okay. I need to have that element of unpredictability hanging over my head the whole time, because that's what makes it exciting.
Yeah.
For me. So, yeah, like, I don't want us to get into like a PvE versus PvP discussion, but that's basically all it comes down to for me. Like, I don't know, like, just AI just doesn't provide the same excitement that other players do. It doesn't. I don't think it ever can.
I hear you. Yeah, and that's a divide that I've needed to wrap my head around, because I've always looked at it as risk versus no risk, but a lot of people basically just block it off into, are there players involved or are there not? And that makes a big difference. Yeah. Let's turn towards the future a little bit. I want to talk about what's actually coming up that's got your eye, because we're talking about a whole bunch about, predictable gameplay and what new stuff we might be able to do. But the rest of the year is a little bit in question. Is there anything in particular that you see as a possibility coming up soon that got you excited?
I really hope we get some sort of base building tech preview before the end of the year. I don't know if that's like crazy cope, but something. Like, I'd love to see. Like, they always try to close the year out with some sort of banger. I don't know what else that banger could be at this point. But yeah, I'd love to see some sort of base building tech preview, but that's just copium I'm pulling out the air. In terms of everything else, it's pretty sort of standard stuff, really, right? It's like it's what we expect, because CIG's in that cadence now where they're generally delivering what they say they'll deliver at a pretty good pace. I don't think there's any like crazy surprises. Like, I'm just quickly taking a look at the 4.10 roadmap. What's expected to come with that. It's only Siege. It's Siege of Orison, which we've talked about, right?
Yeah.
I think the Valakar, the open world Valakar, is a potential thing we might see. I don't know about you, but
that would be cool.
The big Apex open world Valakar is still on the table, I think, at some point, and I think that could well be like another Hathor style experience, because again, maybe it's me coping, but you have this thing in the open world that isn't contained in any way, and you turn up, you kill it, you extract the resources, you got to bring the logistics and the team to deal with it and get out with the resources. I feel like that is essentially like it's a moving worm-shaped Hathor ultimately, if it plays out the way that they said it would play out. Of course.
Well, it's funny because the original.
I've lost you again, damn it.
Man. It's funny because it's got to be the colon button or something, like shift colon. That's so weird. It's funny because the original version of Hathor was supposed to have the worm. When you fired the laser, it was supposed to come out. So that would be poetic if it came back and was similar kind of thing. Yeah. I do think there are a lot of things that are like kind of interesting or exciting, but not super talked about yet, that are locked behind Planet Tech V5 and Starkitect.
Okay. Such as? I'm intrigued.
Well, I think the Valakar that's probably been made to work on the new version, but I also think a lot of the new mission system is based around it. They are talking about doing physical mission boards at locations. They're talking about doing more local missions, bringing in quest givers you can physically meet up with. And like these kind of repair missions that we got in Pyro a little bit, but you could tell they just dropped them in to just kind of see if they worked. I think all of that kind of stuff is based around the next version of Planet Tech. And I think that might be their big kind of hype release of the end of the year.
Do you think so? Okay. But do you see them being drastically different to the missions we have already?
No. I don't see the missions themselves being different, no. Yeah. But I don't even think that patch itself is going to be. It's just like any other really big addition to Star Citizen. It's like, okay, cool, that first drop is great, but it's really going to be the future as they use it. My biggest excitement for that is the hope, I guess. This is maybe a little hopium, that there are a lot more missions on each planet because we have a lot more locations. So players don't need to be flying back and forth between Hurston and Crusader and Microtech and stuff to do all the things they want. You can get it all on one planet. And I think that would make a big difference to the way the game plays.
Okay. Yeah. Like, are you talking about like maybe the Starkitect and the way that they're having like mission hubs where you can spend, multiple hours just in a 200, 300 kilometer radius?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I would love to see the game, get to that point as well, where you can almost call a planet home and just operate out of that planet and do a lot of what you need to do on that planet, right? That would be really cool. Yeah, I mean that is exciting. I feel like we're not going to see any of that till next year, like the Starkitect stuff.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong, because again, that's more water into the cup, right? The cup is spilling over. It's going to spill over, man.
It certainly is, and that's probably the one thing that makes me hesitant is they're running out of time for this year. But they do need some kind of a big finish. And I just don't see what else it could be.
I really can't think either. Like, that's why I'm thinking like amazing. Like, imagine some little tech preview of base building. They gave us a server meshing tech preview a long time before we got server meshing in 3.0. So I don't know.
Well,
it's
base building is another thing I think probably depends on the new Planet Tech. So if they did drop that in, that would be a good time for a preview channel.
Exactly, yeah. And I do think, I don't think it's too far out the realms of possibility. We're July now. There's plenty of time they can get. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything crazy, right? Just a proof of concept, prefab buildings, placing them down. You get the little builder machine and you can place a few things in the tech preview, build this, build that, see it work.
Yeah.
Connect the power up. Oh, look, it works. There you go. Tech preview done. See you in 2 more years, basically.
Just keep chomping on this for 2 years.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be anything crazy, but I would like to see a proof of concept.
That would be cool.
Because that is the next big, real thing for giving people long-term reasons to play and keep coming back, I feel like.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, base building is going to be absolutely massive. It's easy to forget actually how big a deal that will be because we're doing so much in the game, but for so many people, base building is going to be the end game of everything that they're focused on.
If they do it right,
If they do it right, yep.
They got to do it right. They can't just let you build a base, set it and forget it. Never interact with it again.
Yeah.
They need to be like big money sinks, time sinks. They need to have, there needs to be something in it for you, for investing in it as well. You need to get something out of it.
It's got to be productive.
Exactly. They got to do a lot.
Yeah. All right, before we wrap things up, I'm going to get a prediction from you, which I feel like maybe you've already given it with the base building call out. But besides that, I want to retouch back on kind of how we started this, which was talking about the core gameplay, sort of what brought you into Star Citizen, and what got you excited to play the game. With the direction that they're going at now, are you still feeling that excitement for like that kind of just live in space sort of thing that brought you in originally?
Yeah, like I said, for a long time now, I've been tempering my expectations about what this game is really going to be capable of. Is it really going to be able to fulfill that massive open world, thousands and thousands of players, living, breathing universe, right? And I've always managed my expectations. Everything I've done in the game, I've always, in the back of my mind, it's like, man, I don't know if they really can do that, but what they've got here is still like incredible. And there's a game here regardless. Like they can make a really cool immersive sci-fi game out of this already, and I've already had thousands of hours of enjoyment out of playing the game and following the game. So yeah, man, like I'm still very excited for the game, and still mostly I'm optimistic. I'm not pessimistic about the future. I'm just realistic, man. I just always try and stay realistic about what I'm seeing, and based on 10 years of following the project, I feel like I've got a lot of wisdom with the project, and I just use that going forward. We spoke about this earlier. Having that wisdom has also proven to be complete bullshit many times, because CIG are so unpredictable. Like I feel like I call things and then they're completely wrong still. So, don't listen to what I say, that's for sure. But yeah, man, generally, I am optimistic, and whatever happens, I'd be happy with just a few thousand players in a server, in a shard, playing out and living in one universe. That's more than enough, in my opinion. I think whatever they decide on, like, yeah, the game is going to be fun. It's a game I'm still optimistic for, but we do need to keep them in check. We do need to be vigilant and share our thoughts and opinions and feedback, and make sure it doesn't drift too far from the original vision.
Yeah, gotta learn how to share our feedback without screaming our heads off and losing our minds.
Yes.
But they're at a very particular situation, and I think it's fairly unpredictable. But it is an important time for the game. So if you are here, if you're watching, this is a great time to be kind of keeping up and seeing what's going on with Star Citizen. Not to say you have to be involved to get into it. There's still plenty of years before we reach 1.0. Obviously, Squadron, we don't even know if it's coming out this year still. But they're clearly chugging, and they're trying to keep things moving forward on the tracks and progressing. And I appreciate you for joining me to talk about the current state of things and your feelings about the game, man. There's
still so much we haven't covered and we need to cover, but yeah, we'll be here all day. But yeah, man, it's just I just hope they can keep everyone, as many people as possible happy ultimately, and try and give us a game that we're all going to enjoy. It's been a fun ride so far.
It was a cool space game. Yeah, dude, I've got you here for an hour, 20 minutes. I can't take too much more of your time. But,
no, it's okay.
Folks, this one he's hard to get a hold of, but we're going to bring him back on later on in the year. Because we gotta, actually, I got to get your prediction. We got to hold him to the fire to test out whatever his prediction is of the next few months coming up in Star Citizen. So,
oh man,
yeah, you get to tell us what you think might be happening between now and let's say November-ish time. We can bring you back in and judge you for it.
Oh, dude, I was literally had written a script for a video that I was literally going to be covering this, and then CIG again, the unpredictability completely threw my thoughts to the wind. But
yeah,
dude, I've been saying for like a year now that CIG is basically, they are on some sort of speed run. In my opinion, this is just my opinion, to some sort of 1.0 beta, right? Like I really feel like CIG has been speed running to getting to a position where they can get all the features in, get all the crap in, and then announce, or at least not announce, maybe like soft launch some sort of 1.0 beta phase where everything's in, the alpha stuff's in, and then they can start refining it. And I'm not saying that was coming anytime soon, but just probably a couple more years, 2 more years. My prediction for this year was that they were just going to keep full steaming ahead, throwing features in, because their cadence for this year so far was insane. Right? They're just putting features and content and everything in over and over, patch to patch. Throwing stuff in. The new stuff comes in, the last patch, that stuff basically gets screwed over because the new stuff affected some of its dependencies or whatever. Because my thoughts were that they were just putting features in after feature now, getting all the stuff in for some sort of 1.0 beta. But then they announced they're going to freaking delay 4.9 content and take this break to put rail guards up and slow down and make sure stuff is in a better state so everybody can play the alpha again. I'm like, what? Like, no, just I think it's a great idea, and it's interesting, and I think for everybody that plays the game, it's in a complete mess at the moment. So spend some time correcting it, but I really didn't expect that from COD. I expected them to just be going full steam ahead, just throwing features in after feature, getting us closer to some sort of 1.0 now. But long story short, I don't know, man. I don't know now. Like, I don't have any very specific predictions for the year ahead. I haven't thought about like content-wise. I just expected that, or feature-wise, I just expected that CIG would be going full steam ahead, regardless. Yeah. Like, well, sorry, not very exciting, but yeah.
Well, I've got a good one from you. I got you down here for beta in a couple of years. We can just keep on coming back to that one. So that's great. Gift that keeps on giving. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
The 4.9 decision is an interesting one. I hope that even after they do that, they can keep things good with the tech preview channel. But that, honestly, that's like a whole nother podcast episode starting.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it just threw me. That really threw me. Oh yeah, let's slow down. Let's take the foot off the pedal, and we'll spend some time fixing things again and delivering a little bit of playability. But honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing that moving forward. Once or twice a year, take a month, take a patch to correct things, improve things for the people playing. But I also wouldn't mind them just full steaming ahead either, because let's face it, whatever they do, whatever they fix in 4.9 is going to be broken in 4.11 and 4.12 anyway. So
yeah, that's why I'm like, hey, you guys got more things to handle than just the bugs. But that's definitely something I want to hear from folks in the comments. If you're here, thank you so much for listening through all the way. Let us know. Would you prefer they just steamrolled this, got the features in as fast as possible, and then fix everything at the end, or do you want to see them keeping the game relatively playable and smooth for the people who've been told that it exists for that? That's a very subjective subject. But I'm gonna let you go, dude. Thank you so much for joining. If you could let folks know one more time where they can find the rest of your content.
You can just find me on Twitch, just under DTOX, and YouTube. It's DTOX as well, but the handle is DTOX TV, one word, and Kick DTOX as well. And that's it. Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it. Hopefully it didn't open up too big of a can of worms in the chat, in the comments.
We like worms.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate it.
Of course, dude. And if you guys enjoy Star Citizen, we obviously make a lot of Star Citizen content, but these discussions happen every week with a new guest talking about the big topics of the game and other stuff going on in the space game realm out there. So if you're interested, consider subscribing, share with your other Star Citizen addict friends, maybe even give a review on Spotify. It does really help. Thank you all so much for checking this out, for hanging out and listening, and I hope to see you all next week.